Okay guys, so here's where we're at. So I made a baseboard for it and I fixed the front panel onto it. I've started to physically locate all the bits and pieces that go in it. And so the overall layout is going to go like this. The brains of the thing is in here. Power supply is here. And then the two transmitters are there, with the VU meters and the switches in between. And it looks like the driver board for the VU meters is going to have to get fixed to the top of the AMT 3000 right on this outside corner, so I can access these trim pods which set the deflection of the meter once you have the audio levels all figured out and going the way you want them. So, making a little bit of progress here. So what I've done is I've made these little small pieces of 5mm square or 1/4 inch strips of wood and glued them onto the base around each of the main components to lock them in place, and so they're physically located, they can't move around. I mean, I can take them out, it's only gravity holding them in right now. And then for the radio set itself, I added this extra triangular piece to provide support all the way up to hold it against the front, since there's a lot of button pushing has to get done and I didn't want it to be tending to tip back. The power supply, there's an air gap between the radio and the power supply module because there are little vents on the back of the radio. And it says when the battery's charging it can get quite warm, so I thought let's leave a little bit of space for those vents so air can get out. Yeah, so I'm gradually working my way through how I'm going to wire it all up. Okay guys, first power up test. Things are looking good. So the things I'm looking for is that the radio is charging the battery, which it is. So that means the little power wall wart that I dismantled and put into the case is working okay. The VU meters are flipping back and forth, which is nice. So this is tuned to a DAB plus station, connected up to the AM transmitter, and I have my Siemens radio in the workshop set to the AM station. At the moment this switch is set to FM, which is not connected up. If I flip it to AM, we are in business. Initially I thought the VU meters are not lit up, but the light is extremely faint. You kind of have to be in pitch darkness to see it, and so I'll see if I can maybe show that separately in a minute. So yes, I'm pretty happy at this point, because one of my concerns was with all these things in close proximity, would they start interfering? Would I be picking up mains AC interference or buzzing from the wall warts or whatever? So far we're looking good. So for me this is it's a buzz, because here I have a DAB plus station and I'm picking it up on AM on my 1950s Siemens radio, which is cool. Objective achieved. Okay, first major hiccup. When I install the FM box, if I use the local antenna that just plugs straight in the back, when you turn on the FM transmitter, it completely swamps the receiving aerial, which is right next to it. And so you pretty much can't receive anything other than internet radio when you're trying to resend it on FM. So, I mean, if I put the aerial far away, then we're okay. it still impacts the signal, but at least there's enough getting through to resend. So not quite sure what we're going to do with this. This might be a showstopper as far as FM rebroadcasting is concerned. But whatever happens, the antenna is going to have to be located quite a distance away from that receiving antenna if this thing is going to work on FM. Now, in fairness, AM is the one I'm primarily interested in, but since I have it all, I'd like to get at least some sort of functional way of doing it on FM as well. So that's going to be work in progress. I'll put it to one side for the moment, and yeah, I'll start working on the cabinet. So here's where we are with the other piece of the cab. I guess you'd call it the carcass. Top, two sides with a groove run, a through groove on the top and a stopped groove on each of the sides, which will hopefully slide nicely onto the front panel. And I've put a couple of square offcuts at the back, A, to make sure the sides are square, and B, to act as a point for screwing on the back panel. Not quite sure what the back panel is going to look like yet, but we'll get to all that. So before I go gluing up these sides, I need to cut the hole for the aerial. I was going to replicate the big long slot that's on the top of the radio set, but I thought that's over the top because the antenna is always going to be up, either part way or all the way. And so I think if I just make a hole big enough, and so when I slide the cab down, it'll slide down over the antenna, that'll be good enough, at least for now. So all glued up and clamped. Let this lot sit overnight, and then we'll carry on. So there we go. Fit looks reasonable at this point. One more practical thing to do, which is around the right side, which is I'm going to need to rig up some sort of a mechanical push button here to activate the radio inside. So, not quite sure what I'm going to do with that, but we'll figure something out. So here's my super sophisticated on-off button. Nothing magic here. This is the only knob I had handy. I'll get something more appropriate later. But literally this just pushes against the on-off button in the set. And the button itself will push the little plunger back out of the way. So hopefully that'll do, and I can move the grommet along to adjust so that there's minimum travel here on this guy once it's installed. So there we go, that's that bit done. Just a gentle push and the guy powers up. So I think functionally we're almost there now. I just need to do the back panel, or whatever we're going to do for the back. Then after that we get to see what we do with this thing cosmetically. Because the front panel will get painted black, I'll put some sort of I'll make up some sort of a decal to go here. And it's then all down to, do we get into veneering and, you know, trimming with hardwood and all that stuff. Decisions. You can see here I had one or two senior moments. I got the measurement. I assumed that the on-off button was in the dead center of the set, like the aerial. So I just took the center line down, and it ain't. The on-off button is off to the front of this set. So I got that wrong. And then, I'm not quite sure why, but in my first attempt to move it forward, I also thought I had the height wrong, so I dropped it down about 10 centimeters, and that turned out to be wrong. It's actually, I had the height correct originally. So, but since I was a tad nervous about, you know, getting these holes located properly. I started out with really small holes because the only way I could verify is to poke a piece of wire through the hole and then with a torch on the inside see if I was anywhere close to the actual button itself. So trial and error, a little bit of MacGyver, but we got there, and I'll just have to fill up these holes so they're not visible when we're all done. So on the back panel, what I'm thinking of is a little metal plate here with the external audio in, because that'll go over and plug into the side of the set. I'll have a mains plug over here, or a socket for a regular mains cable. And probably to keep cable length short, I'll put a third one in the middle here with a BNC on it going over to the FM transmitter antenna socket. Yep, so that's the plan. So more to come when I get to that. I think that's enough for today.